Hey, welcome to Beyond Organic Wine. I'm Adam Husk. Thank you so much for listening. The majority of this episode, over an hour of in-depth content, is only available for subscribers, and you can easily subscribe at beyondorganicwine.substack.com. If you already subscribed, thank you so much for your support. It makes Beyond Organic Wine possible. Can't thank you enough. In 1 week, on January 26th, I will be hosting a one-day conference about hybrid grapes at the UC Davis Conference Center. It's called Embracing Hybrid Grapes, and we still have a few tickets left at embracinghybridgrapes.com. We have a new addition to the day, a scientist from Quebec who will be presenting on her recent study that compared the drought and heat tolerance of hybrid grapes versus Vinifera. I'm really excited about her study. I've read it, and I can't wait to see her present it. I'm also excited to ask the question why California isn't leading the world in this kind of research. In the face of increasingly extreme pressure, climate change, market and generational shifts, will we continue to cling to an idea of traditional wine that no longer serves us? Or will we adapt, progress, and start increasing the resilience and relevance of our wine cultures? I think embracing hybrid grapes could be a turning point for wine in California. This conference is for anyone curious about the future of wine, whether you're a winemaker, grower, distributor, retailer, sommelier, student, or simply someone who cares about where wine is headed. I hope to see you there. embracinghybridgrapes.com for the full schedule and tickets next week. This episode features Derek Fogel, a grape grower in northern Michigan and the co-owner of Folklore Wine and Cider with Isabella Babinska. Derek introduces us to the unique wine growing region at the northern edge of where Vitis vinifera can grow, thanks to the buffering influence of Lake Michigan, and where hybrid grapes are just as common because of the climate. Derek and Isabella have planted the Folklore Estate vineyard to around a 50-50 mix of several hybrid and vinifera varieties, and they farm several other local vineyards that have hybrids and vinifera as well. They have farmed their estate vineyard organically and achieved organic certification in 2025, but they continue to farm several other vineyards conventionally at the direction of the vineyard owners. This experience gives Derek a rare perspective, as he personally works with both vinifera and hybrids, conventionally and organically, and can draw conclusions from comparisons informed by both up-close observation and financial data. Because of this, we go deep into the details of temperate climate, organic, and conventional viticulture with hybrids and vinifera, and the results not only surprised me, but reinforced my commitment to organic viticulture, whatever or wherever you're growing. We get into the function of the soil microbiome and how vital fungi are to the health of vineyard ecosystems. This leads into a discussion of systemic fungicides and how they break mycorrhizal connections, reducing vines' ability to uptake important nutrients and minerals necessary for health, resilience, and grape quality. We look at how tillage practices, cover crop, and plant diversity, and fungicides affect the vineyard community and can either enhance a vine's connection and membership in the community, allowing it to experience the full benefits of community membership, or how our practices can isolate and alienate the vine from its community, resulting in it needing to get the benefits of community membership from a bottle that the vineyard owner must pay for. We talk about how this applies to insect pests and pest control, discussing sap Brix analysis and the way that distress and lack of health leads to insect predation. One of the common refrains that I've heard for years when comparing conventional versus organic viticulture is that while organic may remove some bad stuff from the environment, sure, it's less effective and therefore requires more work and therefore ultimately costs more than conventional viticulture, especially in temperate climates where fungal pressures are high. Derek shows from side-by-side comparison in a temperate climate using both vinifera and hybrids that this just isn't true when you take all annual costs into account. He tells in detail how the use of systemic conventional fungicides and herbicides ultimately increases multiple other costs and results in the vineyard becoming increasingly dependent on outside inputs. From someone who farms both ways and has a very grounded and non-ideological approach to this comparison, this is one of the most damning indictments of conventional viticulture that I've heard, and a real call for change about the way we see and account for temperate climate viticulture. A big thanks to Derek for this conversation, and if you're coming to Embracing Hybrid Grapes next week, we'll be tasting a folklore wine that Derek and Isabella donated, called Away with Words, which is a blend of Lackady Blanc and Osceola Muscat. I can't wait to taste it, and I hope I can share a glass with you. Enjoy. Derek, welcome. Thanks for doing this. Welcome to Beyond Organic Wine. And could you introduce yourself and your winery, cidery, and where you are in the world?
Oh, well, thanks for having me, Adam. My name is Derek Vogel. I am part owner of Folklore Wine and Cider with my business partner and life partner, Isabella Babinska. Um, we are in Charlevoix, Michigan. And we're farming around 12 acres of grapevines. We're planting some more this spring, and we've got 500 old apple trees that we're trying to nurse back to health, and we've got a couple hundred old pear trees that we're working on as well.
12 acres is no joke. How many acres of the the palm trees do you have?
So around 5 of apple and around 2 of pear.
Okay. Yeah, that's no joke.
Yeah. It's more honestly, it's more than we're getting done currently, but, but
I was gonna
we'll
say,
get we'll
so
get into that.
there's two of you. You must have to get some help.
So we have a little help. I have this. He's in college now. His name is Corin, and I've worked with him since he was 13 at a winery that I worked at in Petoskey, Michigan. He could walk to the farm and before he could drive, so he would just walk up there, and so I've been working with him since for years now, and I'm like really happy to say that we've kind of converted him to the dark side, like and he's such a smart kid. And we've got him this year he's planting a test plot on our farm where he's trying all of these different fun trellis styles out and these different kind of cultivars and rootstock combinations. So I just love to see someone that young and smart engaged in growing and farming. It's like brings me a lot of pride and a lot of joy.
That's great. I
Yeah.
mean, very cool. Yeah, I mean, even with three of you, unless one of you is Herculean superhuman, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, yeah, and
And
I
you're
mean,
adding more. Well done. Well done.
uh,
The family of
uh,
masochists, apparently.
it's not sustainable, so
I
we
mean, that's a great use of that term.
yeah, it's getting like the vines. We have a lot of young vines. We have a lot of vines that are in their third leaf, and then some vines going into their second leaf,
That's a
and
lot of
that's
work.
yeah, it's a lot of work. But I guess in my head, I've always thought it's less work than having a full canopy vine to work.
Oh, yeah. The
Um,
thing though is like you're making so many important decisions. I
yeah,
feel like the work is slower when they're young because you're shaping the rest of their lives at this
yeah,
moment. No pressure or anything, but
yeah. I mean, 100%. But Isabella and I have worked together on vines in some we've rehabbed vineyards that have been neglected for years, and we communicate well most of the time, and we uh, I don't know. I like working with her a lot because we understand each other. We're like when we use words like technical terms, they mean the same thing to us. So I feel like we are fairly efficient. And then with Corin, I've been working with him for years and years, so I trust him a lot as well. So and I feel like we definitely work pretty efficiently, but realizing we're going to need to expand our staff here soon.
yeah, I mean, how is well. I mean, we could lead into how business is up there where you are, but to lead into that, let's get if you would, let's talk about how what it's like there. Like, what is
Yeah,
your micro or mesoclimate like? What is
sure.
your what is that area sort of known for?
Yeah, so Northwest Michigan is I mean first I think it's one of the prettiest places on the planet. It's truly a stunning area. Um, we are most of the grape growing in Northwest Michigan centers around the Traverse City area, and it's been people have been growing grapevines in the area since like 1970. So not long, like 50 years, 60 years. And it's taken us a long time to really kind of figure out what we should be planting and what does well and how to train things and how to farm here. And part of that is like it's cold here. We um, it's not uncommon to see to hit zero or lower.
Yeah.
And the only reason that we can grow vinifera in this like the Leelanau Peninsula, Old Mission Peninsula, and parts of the east side of East Grand Traverse Bay is because we have some moderation from Lake Michigan and then also from some really deep bays around us here. So that moderation is really it's a matter of a couple of degrees, and there are days when if you go 20 miles inland, we're seeing temps at -15 to -19, but closer to the water, we're not. We're at like -4, -5.
Yeah.
So that allows us to grow hardier vinifera, um, and that's what you see a lot of in the Traverse area, kind of with some hybrid cultivars sprinkled in there. Except on the east side of East Grand Traverse Bay, headed toward the Petoskey wine region, they're growing primarily hybrid cultivars, pretty cold tolerant stuff up. They get less moderation from their little bay there, and just less moderation overall. So it's not uncommon to see temperatures hit -14 to negative. So you need a pretty tough cultivar in that region there.
So you're in a unique position in the world in a way of growing both of these. I mean, it's getting less and less unique, but
Yeah,
um, by virtue of where you guys are, you have this liminal spot climate wise that incentivized hybrids. So there's quite a few of them there, but like
yeah,
allows for some vinifera, and so you guys have kind of embraced both.
yeah,
And how have you gone about selecting what you like? Yeah, selecting the varieties that you work with, and what
yeah.
your own sort of approach there.
So Isabella and I, we started working with grapevines in 2018, 2019, and primarily hybrids. Like we really cut our teeth on hybrid bars, um, and uh, and through that when we realized we wanted to run our own operation, to buy our some ground, and primarily there were a lot of reasons for that, but we put together a serious business plan in 2019, and figured out how to secure some funding and kind of how to get this thing in motion. And we spent a lot of time trying to put this a list of cultivars that we really wanted uh, together. And oh man, it's been a journey. It's changed probably 10 times, honestly. And part of that is we were looking where we were looking to buy property. It ranged from 20, 30 miles north of Petoskey all the way to Traverse City. So within that region, you can be in the more southern areas growing vinifera, but in the northern areas, like even kind of limited hybrids up there, like you really need cold tolerant stuff up
Yeah.
there. So one of the biggest things, and we've been, we come to the viticulture winemaking world from healthcare. Both of us, Isabella is a grant writer. I worked in diagnostic laboratories, and we were doing that for 10 years about. And then we started to read about a lot about wine, and we really kind of dug into things, and so we came to this industry with some like already some biases and some like pre we knew how we wanted to farm before we even started, and that's changed a lot too. But basically, uh, after we built this business plan in 2019, we started looking for properties, and it took 2 years. And through this process, like we get out and we taste a lot of wine, and there was I was drinking a lot of wine from the Petoskey region, and I make it a point to always buy bottles and kind of reopen them up later, and just to be supportive of the industry in the area. And what we noticed in this 2 year period while we were looking for the right property, this kind of stash of hybrid wines that we had purchased, we never really drank. And our in-laws didn't drink them. And part of it at the time, we thought maybe it was, maybe hybrids weren't what we were looking to make wine. But now, after a lot of reflection and more time, I think it was really kind of a winemaking approach rather than a cultivar related approach, because within that, you know, I don't know, the last couple of years, we've really tasted some wines from some hybrid cultivars and made some wines that we've loved. So it's basically that changed our planting plan to cutting back on some of the hybrid cultivars that we planted and leaning into some vinifera. And right now we're about 60-40 vinifera to hybrids. But with this next planting, we're going to be closer to 50-50. And
Gotcha.
and we're really pleased with that. Like we feel good about, I mean, we love some of the classic vinifera that we're used to tasting, that we understand. We're suckers for Riesling, but we're also really getting into some of these hybrid wines that we're making and that our neighbors are making, and they're just like a lot of fun. They're a little bit different, and I just think there's a ton of potential to make great wine from some of these hybrid.
Yeah. So I'm just to clarify. So you were saying initially you were just like, maybe hybrids suck in and of themselves, and then what you realized is like maybe the winemaking wasn't so good, and we can't blame the varieties themselves, the cultivars
Yes.
themselves.
Yeah,
Um,
we
and then
we
you
were
go
kind
ahead.
of at that like frame of thought. We're like, dang, I don't know if these hybrids are what we want to make one. Um,
Right. Right.
but it did. We have kind of reversed that thinking, and it is definitely more of a winemaking thing than it is a cultivar thing.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, it's a. The other question I had for you was, you knew from the beginning. You said how you wanted to farm. What was that like? What were your values coming into this?
So and I don't know what the original, like what really got us on this track, but we knew we wanted to grow organic fruit. I mean, we've always Isabella's a great cook, and she loves cooking with fresh ingredients, and we love like good healthy vegetables and fruits, and we think like there's a correlation to nutrient dense food and organic or better farming. So
Yeah.
we were naturally kind of already reading about and listening to podcasts from organic growers and biodynamic growers and regenerative organic growers. And so we kind of, that was kind of our expectation going in. And then, once we started to dig into growing, and we jumped right in. It's like we don't know how to ease into anything, which is foolish. But we started working with some growers who didn't have time to take care of their vineyards, and their vineyards were pretty neglected, and they wanted. We worked out some fruit for labor relationships with several vineyards, and that's where like these kind of preconceived ideas that we had about farming just like became further entrenched. And just, I mean, there were just a couple of key moments that I recall, like replacing trellis posts in a vineyard, and digging holes in this vineyard that's been using herbicide for 12 years, and I like distinctly remember very little organic matter, and no little creatures, like no, it just seemed like dead soil.
Yeah.
And that was, and then you look around and you drive by vineyards and orchards, and you see the herbicide strip, and then you're just like, wow, man, we are literally killing the soil where we're trying to grow these plants. which just doesn't seems very counterintuitive. So so that was kind of a key moment. And then, I like very distinctly remember putting herbicide down for a grower, and seeing this, like, just at the last second, seeing this snake and blasting them with herbicide. and
Yeah.
and I've never really seen snakes in that vineyard since, and I'm not saying there's any sort of correlation, but man, snakes are so great for vineyards, and
Yeah.
just I really hated that, so that was kind of our first big step. Is anywhere that we were farming, we were trying to convince the grower to work away from herbicides, and we were successful in some cases. And like in 20% of those vineyards, they are still not using herbicides. Some of them have gone back,
Oh wow.
but I will take that. I'll take that 20%.
I mean, you say you won't make a connection between using herbicides and the lack of snakes, but I might say that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I think at the very least, like whether applying herbicide directly onto a snake hurts the snake. I mean, I would not want to apply herbicide directly onto myself. I'll just put it that
right,
way. But at the very least, you're eliminating its prey's habitat. Like the things that it feeds
100%.
on are now have nowhere to make homes, and so
Yeah,
you lose that, and that also their habitat, their concealment, the thing that keeps them safe from hawks and
right.
other birds of prey, is gone. And so
Yeah,
yeah, I think there's a direct correlation between lack of snakes and lack of and
yeah.
herbicide use. Yeah.
And I can, like, nothing makes me happier in our own vineyard when I come across a snake. And it's like, I'm not saying it's crazy frequent, but it's fairly often, and it just, like, that makes me really happy. And I know that guy's like doing work for me.
Yeah.
And that just, yeah, makes me happy.
Well, I mean, I've found, I mean, this is something, this is total tangent and I'll keep it short, but, I mean, one of the ways that you can incentivize snakes for anybody thinking about it is with rock piles.
Yeah,
And in colder climates like Michigan, I think a really creative idea for both suppressing undervine, plant growth,
yeah,
as well as for maintaining heat under the fruiting zone of the vines, where you're getting ripening and perhaps better ripening in some ways, would be to like a strip of like a rock wall. I
yeah.
don't want to call it a wall, but like a little pony wall or whatever you want to call it, like sort of like laying a slate, whatever, in the
Yeah.
area that somebody might spray herbicide or might do undervine tillage,
So
just suppress the weed growth with slate or whatever your local rock is, and you've incentivized snake, you've created all this, like, reptile habitat, as well as accomplished multiple other things, and might be helping ripen your grapes in a cold climate more
I
easily.
I think so. So our property is crazy rocky.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where we hand dig a lot of holes, because augers are just like, your hole ends up crooked anyway, and you have to
Right,
clean it
right.
out. And it just, like, so this, Corin and I dig a lot of holes.
Yeah.
But we're just
Yep.
constantly pulling rocks out of these holes, and I don't take them out of the vineyard. They go right underneath the vine row.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks I'm a crackpot, like, like, I'll neighbor growers, I'll be talking to them, and I'll be on their site and working with them in some instances. And they're just like, their strategy is to remove every single rock from the vineyard, so that they're, not dinging up their mower blades. And
Right.
so when I tell them, like, oh yeah, I don't take any rocks out, they're all still in the vineyard. And my poor, like, we mow very infrequently. My poor mower is just like, man, it's not going to make it long.
Well, and I will say, I mean, there are some practical considerations about that do make it challenging. Like, it takes quite a bit of rocks, even, because I have the same thing. Like, I dug probably, I don't know, 300 holes this past year in upstate New
Nice.
York. Similar,
Yeah.
like the glacial remains, of the whole Great Lakes region. As my neighborhood farmer says, we're blessed with rocks. Um, uh, it's, I mean, seriously, I say it's like 50% rocks, but
Yeah.
but it's not evenly distributed. So you could try to dig a hole and it might be like 85% rocks in that specific site. So it's like, even with all those rocks, though, once you pull them up, it doesn't completely cover the ground, and then yeah, you do get growth of a lot of plants. A lot of the
Yeah.
goldenrod and everything else still shoots up around them, and then you're mowing and you want to get that down, and then you hit the rocks that you left there. So I get that, unless you strategically like start one row where all the rocks that you're digging up go into that one site, and then you might get enough mass in that one
Yeah.
area and then slowly build it over time. But yeah, I mean, there are some practical considerations, which to be fair
Yeah.
and and everything,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you do
It's
have to
a
be
fair
careful.
consideration, but that's one of those practical things that I don't care about. Like,
Nice.
you
Nice. I
like,
mean, the only reason I care about them is because I much prefer a mower. I mean, I much prefer, ruminants. Number one would be like
sure.
at the
Yeah.
top of that hierarchy, but number two, a mower, because at the very, very bottom, I am almost at a boycott of it, is weed whackers at this point. Like
Yeah.
I have become so anti weed whackers, and this is, sorry, another tangent, but just like the amount of microplastic that you shoot into your, I mean,
Yeah.
there are metal strings and stuff like that, but then you have to be super careful around your vines.
Right.
Even with the plastic ones, you should be super, super careful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's part of why I hate them too, is like there's no guard around them. You can mow right next to a vine without, and know that you're not going to hurt it. Whereas if you weed whack, if you just accidentally hit a rock or something like that, it might jump into the vine, whether you're
Yeah.
trying to be careful or not. And then you've introduced a wound that could introduce whatever,
Yeah.
crown
Yeah.
gall and whatever you've got
For
in
sure.
that area.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like, I mean, I am, I, yeah, the amount of, anyway, the resource use, time, everything about it is just an ugly activity in my experience. And
Yeah.
I do not like it. I know that maybe it's like the lesser of other evils in some ways, but man, I will do anything besides weed whack at this point in my life.
Yeah,
um,
we do. I mean, we have some really great cover crop mixes that stay fairly low, um, and so like I might. There are sections of my vineyard that I don't have to weed whack at all, but there are some that definitely take a little bit of work.
yeah.
But this perfect under vine cover crop. It's like a mix of five fescues and some low growing legumes. It's like out competes the weeds, which is great. But then I've only got like two functional plant groups in this space, and
Right.
I think I I think the vines are less healthy in this area.
Mm,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, so it is kind of like it's the ideal scenario for labor, but it's also like I'm not getting the photosynthetic units and the biological diversity that I am in other parts of our vineyard. So, you know, uh, there's that. But
Well, and that brings us into, maybe, because I mean, if we think, like, if we're thinking about how to deal with all that, and especially in the Great Lakes region or any sort of temperate region with summer rains, there's quite a bit of growth. I mean, like,
yeah,
I mean, my my vines that I planted this year were 3 feet below the tops of the other plants that grew up, that
yeah,
were shorter
right,
than them when the season started, because it's
yeah,
just like establishing a young vine, and then these, goldenrod and whatever else you have is just going to shoot up. Like, I mean,
yeah,
it can be over your head by the end of the
yeah,
season. And so it's a real concern. I mean, we know. I mean, and I think you've seen this, right? Like, you've seen the competition. If you could talk about that, like that competition that you've seen, like why you care about all this growth under there in the first few
yeah.
years of establishment.
Well, so I mean, this is. we have our vines have always had some amount of competition around them. Like during establishment for the first 2 years, we hand pull weeds pretty roughly, but in the vine row, and it's like basically takes us all season to get through everything. But we hand pull what we don't want, and we leave in what we do want, basically flowering plants, typically low
Mm.
growing plants, and any legume or any sort of grass that uh, lower growing grass. um, and it's super labor intensive, but it really, after year 2 we've noticed it takes a lot less labor in year 3 and 4. um,
In the sense of you have beat back those other plants, or in the sense that the vine isn't
oh
affected by the growth of all the other
that
plants?
we have, like the plants that we are leaving in place are seeding out and then spreading, and what we're seeing is a better selection of what we want underneath of the vine, and
Oh, really?
lesser of what
Do you
we
have
don't want.
goldenrod there?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's not, you're able to get rid of it?
Um, no.
Okay, just checking.
So
I mean,
we
I mean,
no.
not that you want to get rid of it, but man, it's such a. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I think it spreads by its roots. It seems like as much as by seed. Like it's like tuberous
Hmm.
roots. It's crazy.
So we do pull it in directly in the vine row, but we leave it in place in like in certain parts of the vineyard and around it. Like we have these kind of designated wild areas. And this past fall, the goldenrod was just stunning, like totally
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh man,
Um, and
totally
there
different.
are times when like I will have to go out with like a just I don't know, like a giant pair of scissors and cut some of that gold run, and it gets really lignified too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to do, but I'd say it's not my biggest problem,
So you're
at
not
least right now.
mowing, or is that where are you using the scissors?
Oh, only like the goldenrod's clumpy, like you said.
Yeah.
I think it grows under the ground. So after our first like weeding pass, much later in the season, if I notice I have an area around the vines that is too where the goldenrod is like too dense, then I'll just go in and chop it out.
Got it. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
almost
then in
machete
relation
work.
to the competition, the vines, like we'll see them struggle. A, I don't even. I mean, I we've been taking fruit off of some of these vines in year 3, and in some cases even year 2,
Oh,
uh, mainly to slow vigor down. But I'm happy with my vigor in most cases. Like I've seen, I've heard a lot of growers talk about having way too much vigor.
yeah.
They'll hit year 4, year 5, and the vines are just so vigorous. And I've seen this a lot, and it's
Yeah.
like I really don't like an overly vigorous vine. They just takes a lot of work to open the canopy up. So I kind of prefer a little competition and a little pressure, and I don't want to say struggle, but yeah, maybe like a little bit of struggle out of the vine so that its vigor is a little bit toned. But saying that now, I'm in year 6 with 2 acres of the vines, and my yields in some areas of the vineyard are a little light, but I've also had a very very light fertilization program. So
Hmm.
we're going to work on that. But I don't know that that is directly related to plant pressure around the vines. With that said, we did plant straight into some cover crop with about 2 acres of vines, and those vines are definitely like they're going into their third season, their third leaf coming up. And I mean, that's when I kind of really decide, as far as I can tell, when vines hit year 3, they figure something out. Maybe it's like the relationship with the microbiology starts to click. um, but we see a pretty solid jump in year 3 in vine.
Do you
And then I'll be really curious to watch how these blocks do specifically, because we've never weeded them. Like like ever.
Yeah, I'd be curious too. Keep me posted because I'm trying to do something similar. Because to me, it's like, I mean, I'm planting in the spring when things are mostly, for the most part, planting in the spring. They're
Yeah.
definitely, I planted all the way into July this year, and uh, and so I had to like do some mowing to actually plant the last ones that I planted. But
Yeah.
in the spring, it's like everything is low anyway, and you're just digging
Yeah.
into 6 inches of growth. But then later on in the season, you can't see the vines anymore. Are you are you doing? And I'm not, like, again, for me, it's like, if they. So I was going to say, I think, Deirdre Heekin, I think, has this idea. She has suggested this idea to some folks when establishing their vineyard of giving the vines a wild year, so to speak,
Yeah.
which is essentially that. Like, yeah, you plant them and then let them figure it out. You're not
Yeah.
tying them to any trellis. You're not, giving them any extra help. Like, giving, just letting them have that year to make the connections, and slowly, it's going to be a slower process, but
Yeah.
the end result might be better, more resilient, more nestled in place, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this was, I mean, this, for me, it's more a matter of how to how to do what you're doing, which is like farm with a very few number of people, and all hand labor, in my case, for the most part, with
Yeah.
very, very minimal, like I said, like a brush mower that I'll employ, um, as needed, until I get a flock of sheep and can commit to being there
Right.
with a
Yes.
flock of sheep year
I'm
round,
ready for those sheep too. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
But so it, I'm very curious to see, I mean, for me, it's like, there, yeah, I think we were talking about this, but any choice you make, there's some trade-off, and
Yes.
it, I would rather make the trade-off in reducing inputs,
Yes.
rather than accelerating productivity, if that makes
Right.
sense. So, like,
Yeah.
it would be great if I could have both, and maybe you can, if you're smart enough. You know what I mean? And that's
Right.
part of the experimentation. But at least initially, I'm erring on the side of reducing inputs, and
Yeah.
so, yeah, like, that means I don't want to have to weed or even add the input of labor. If, great, so the plants are taller than the vines by the end of the year, but we'll see how they do this year, and then we'll see how they do year three, and maybe they establish a little more slowly. But if the overall health of the vine is solid, and they've learned how to live in competition with all these other things, then
Yeah.
hey, I'm okay with that. Like, and then, if the productivity comes on, into play, uh, at around the time that it should, then great.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I have a quick story
yeah.
in relation to that. But before I get to that, do you follow Dr. Christine Jones at all?
Absolutely. I mean, she's the
No.
one. I mean, when you said the thing about, you were kind of upset about your cover crop mix being only two varieties,
Yeah.
she and her studies are who jumped to my head, because everything that she has shown, all of the studies that she is reviewing and participating in, are showing that, like, the greater the diversity of plants, the more resilient all of them are, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And that's like when I think about establishing these young vines and like the competition thing,
yeah,
I if you just think about every little plant, if you have 12 different varieties and species of plants and all these different photosynthetic opportunities and how that's feeding the soil, you have to imagine that like your vines are still getting fed. Um,
right.
uh, they're still there's and potentially better than we could feed them as humans. So yeah, I think that's really what is driving what we do with with our cover and our all that stuff is it's all centered around Dr. Jones's research and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Well,
Yeah.
so,
Back to the story really quick. So
yeah, please. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. don't
there's
let me don't let me
we
distract you.
were at a wonderful conference this year in Northwest Michigan, and part of this conference we take these field trips to check out other folks' vineyards to see how they're doing things, and we took this trip out to a conventional grower who was like his whole uh, spiel was centered around vineyard establishment and how like well he's doing that
Mm,
and And it is wild. It's like the complete opposite of what we're talking about. Like to the
Yeah.
point where he's the field is a perfectly tilled field. He plants into it, and he tills after every rainfall for that
Oh
first
my
year. Every
God.
single rainfall, he's retilling the rows, um, and I think he put herbicide underneath of the, and he's using traditional high analysis fertilizers through the season, and and his whole thing was he's taking fruit in year two and taking a pretty good crop in year three, um, and then uh but like looking at this vineyard, we're all standing there, a big group of us, and it looks pretty good, but the vines are huge, man, in year three. uh and I took a quick little walk around, and there are more bull canes in this young vineyard than I uh have ever seen. And it's like, okay, so maybe this is great. It's nice to have a little income in year two and three, but I think you're going to have serious issues um,
With
in
mildew and
a couple years. And like if if your vine gets in that vigorous cycle of growth, it's really hard to fix. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's that, that's the merry-go-round of
yeah,
chemical farming. It's
in the
like
wild, like I'm standing there next to one of the oldest growers in the area, and he's like, I have so much respect for the guy, and he's standing there and he says out loud to me that this is the best vineyard in Michigan. And I'm like standing there looking at this vineyard, and I'm like, I don't know if I ever want to drink wines from there,
I don't.
like
Yeah, I definitely
this is
don't.
not like this isn't um you're not this isn't, and has nothing to do with growing in soil. It's almost like hydroponic farming.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Um,
No, I think
yeah,
that's
so it's
so
just
much.
interesting. Like I keep reflecting on that, and how do we have like such different perspectives?
Yeah.
And this guy knows his stuff. Like he's been doing it for 30 years. So yeah, just kind of wild, but
No, I mean that's you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that's the ideal of industrial conventional farming is that the soil is essentially a sterile medium into
yeah,
which you just add the things to get what you want out of it. And it's yeah, it's not.
yeah,
It is a very very different way of thinking about it. It seems insane to me. I
yeah,
mean, just frankly, like
yes,
again, for somebody who's coming from the complete opposite side, it's like I mean, just from an input standpoint,
yes,
time, energy, the costs can't make it make sense. I don't know. Maybe
no,
it can, but it is I don't know how anybody can see that as sustainable.
yeah,
Not in a
yeah,
long term sense. I mean, certainly great in a short term sense if you're just trying to look. It's extractive. It's ecological parasitism is what I see it
yeah,
as.
yeah.
It's yeah. It's like
Well,
not
and the
not the kind of farming I think is good for
yeah,
anybody or
well, and
anything.
it's just really kind of boring too. Like, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
not like I consume wine to because I believe that it can really kind of represent place and people, and if you remove that by removing the story of the soil, it's like, oh, what am I doing here?
yeah.
Um, yeah,
So, I mean, speaking of which, but you work, I would love for you to describe your vineyard and what it looks like in terms of row spacing, vine spacing, trellising, um, you know, and also then we can get into the kind of varieties you work with, and then I also you're still taking care of a couple of vineyards, some of which
yeah,
the owners want you to manage conventionally, and so you
yes,
have a good mix of conventional, organic. You guys just became certified organic this past year, is that right? Or
yep,
a year?
yep,
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 fantastic. So you've been working at that on your own farm for a few years, and now
yeah,
you've got this a good mix and comparative analysis in terms of lots of different factors. But
yeah.
give us the what it looks like, and then we'll dig into like what
Sure.
everything is and what the comparisons.
Yeah, yeah. So just kind of talking about, the finances and the inputs, and um and it is, I really do love running the organic program here at our farm, and then still kind of dabbling in the conventional farming world. And what's happening is I'm becoming a worse and worse conventional farmer because I just like, once you kind of see once you kind of see the life in the soil and what it can offer, and understand that every single input that you add to your vines, most of them, every fungicide, every herbicide, every insecticide has a detrimental impact on the symbiotic relationship between your vine and.
Well, that's it for now. If you are not a paid subscriber, if you'd like to become a paid subscriber to get full access to this and all the content at Beyond Organic Wine, you can easily do that at beyondorganicwine.substack.com. Thank you so much. And here's a little music from Colden Pro. A big thanks to him for this.